Friends, I bring you greetings from what I'm proud to say is one of the most vibrant democracies in the whole world, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Just a few weeks ago, we carried out our 29th election in 22 years of revolutionary democracy, a democracy that was constituted in 1999 with the approval of a new constitution that was drafted by popularly elected members for the first time and approved by popular vote for the first time. That is direct popular vote, no electoral colleges, no intermediaries, nothing of the sort. Under this constitution, Venezuela is a participatory democracy. That is a step further from this traditional bourgeois state that the United States believes it can apply or impose on the rest of the world. It is a democracy, Venezuela is a democracy where the paramount decisions are consulted with the electorate, where any elected official from city council to president can be recalled by the middle of his or her term if the electorate so decides. A democracy where organized communities can directly participate in drafting and promoting legislation. And as an example, the Venezuelan seed law is a law that prohibits the use of GMO seeds. It was drafted, proposed, composed, and presented by organized communities. So most importantly, Venezuela became a society where democratic participation became so meaningful that participation in elections increased even after voting stopped. After voting stops being mandatory by law. We achieved this by bringing politics to everyday life, by bringing politics to community organizing, and by making politics the source of concrete changes and policies affecting people's everyday life. That is why our democracy is no longer just a concept limited to election cycles, but more of a common day, everyday event. Perhaps the greatest achievement of Venezuela's democracy was engaging all of the population so that regardless of your political ideology or sympathies, everyone participates and relates to the democratic experience. That is why Venezuelan democracy doesn't fit the neoliberal model. Venezuelan democracy is not a Norman. It's not there to support a status quo, passively stand by while corporations make decisions over our lives. Venezuelan democracy, which is building a new model for the state where the communes will be at the center, where the priority is the guarantee of human rights, understood not only as political rights, but social, economic, cultural rights as well, the right to dignified housing, to healthcare, to education, as well as collective rights to enjoy the country's resources, and even the right to protect the planet. That is why Venezuelan democracy doesn't fit that Washington pattern. Venezuelan democracy is not there to cater to corporate needs or US foreign policy objectives. The Venezuelan democracy also knows that Venezuela has responsibilities within the international community. Venezuela respects international law and works every day in achieving what Simon Bolivar called the equilibrium of the universe, a balance where no one country or group of countries can impose their will over others, where cooperation is not only preferred, but actually sought. What Washington wants in Venezuela is a democracy where decisions are made at the level where the US can get control of the decision makers, where Washington can interfere if protests arise, like in Colombia, and repress people that are coming out to the streets and protesting for their rights. Washington wants a democracy where court independence exists only to the extent that it prevents progressive movements from crossing the lines or from demanding too much, or where if anyone gets out of line, well, there are ways to persecute them through lawfare. And of course, we saw the greatest example of this yesterday on International Human Rights Day, when you have a group of countries, sitting around virtually and speaking of what they believe democracy should be, while they approve Julian Assange's extradition to the United States, so that his human rights are going to be now in jeopardy and his life is going to be in danger. That is why for the last 3 years, Washington has attempted to impose its own version of democracy in Venezuela by violating international law. exerting pressure through illegal unilateral coercive measures, and by recognizing a self-proclaimed interim president whose only achievement has been to allow Venezuela's assets to be frozen in foreign banks or stolen in detriment of the rights and well-being of all Venezuelan people. That is why that imposter participated yesterday in Biden's summit, an imposter who readily aligned himself with U.S. foreign policy and who accepts U.S. authority to split the world into democracies, into the democratic and authoritarian categories, into good and bad, as they want us to think. That's why Venezuela cannot sit at that table, and neither could Cuba or Nicaragua or China or Vietnam or any country that has any type of independent foreign policy. Venezuela, and I say coming to an end, my friends, Venezuela is building socialism, and building socialism is a struggle. We have people committed to social justice, but we're building a more just system under the most unjust conditions, where we are not only blockaded, we're constantly under threat and being persecuted. So our model, therefore, needs to adjust to our realities and to our characteristics. That is why no two socialist models or no two democratic models are the same, nor should they be. What they must undeniably do, though, is guarantee a better and dignified life to a large majority of the populations. Venezuela is respectful of international law, of the most and of the most democratic of all summits or gatherings that we have now, which is the United Nations. And we believe, that's what we defend the Charter of the United Nations, we defend its principles, and we believe that that's something that we must continuously aim to defend and protect. So coming from Venezuela, from the Simon Bolivar Institute, we believe that peace and solidarity can only truly exist under socialism, and that it is up to our socialist democracies to resist imperialist aggression and uphold them. Thank you very much.